We all know that North Myrtle Beach is the place to be if you want to experience our state dance, shag. And we all know that before 1968, the name North Myrtle Beach didn't even exist. But here are some facts I bet you didn't know.
Well, my father had been coming here with his parents since the early 30s, actually. My father loved to fish. He was a big fisherman, and of course here in the 30s and 40s fishing was very good. And my father told Phil Permenter, which used to have a grocery store in Cherry Grove, if he ever wanted to sell the store, he would like to move to Cherry Grove. So Phil Permenter called my father probably in 1947 and told my father he needed to sell the store. So my father immediately came to the beach and bought the store in early 1948. Had to do some remodeling and fixing it up, but opened the first Boulineau's in Cherry Grove in 1948. And my father, again, just loved to fish, and that was the main reason he came to the beach.
My mom worked in earlier years, she worked in farming. Her dad was a farmer, Mr. Austin Bellamy, and she worked with him on the farm, not a big farm. Matter of fact, the farm, my granddaddy used to own 21 acres of property in the middle of what's now River Hills. And the only thing that's still there that gives me any sense of direction, he used to farm that land. We had corn and tobacco and cotton, and the only thing now there that gives me any sense of direction from the old school is there's a pond there. And I guess they used that pond as their retaining pond. And out of that pond, we used to take buckets of water. I don't know if you're familiar in planting tobacco back in those days. We had something called a trendsetter. And it was a metal thing with a sharp point on it, and it had water in it, and you drop a plant in it and squeeze the trigger, and the plant comes out, and a little water comes out along with it, and the plant is in the ground. And that was how we would plant the tobacco. And the pond that's there now, if you go into River Hills and the clubhouse there to your left, right straight in front of you, it's a pond. And that's the only thing when they developed that area, that and another pond that's still the same.
The beach is what brought us here. We loved it. And when we came down and there were cars driving on the beach, cars, trucks, and you would see these little children playing and people lying down on the sand. And we just knew how dangerous that was. So I started a campaign to stop the driving on the beach. And you can imagine, from people who have lived here forever in 2 days, that did not set well. And the outcomers, as we were sometimes called, were trying to run everything. I had a very difficult time from a few people about both the shelter and driving on the beach.
And I got a job with a cable company. I was the first employee they had. And I climbed all those towers, and we built the system in Conway, helped build it. And we did all the installations in Myrtle Beach and all the collecting from the cable company down there. And then Alan Schaefer, one summer I'd work at a cable company in the daytime, and then I went to work for Dr. Herring at night, making donuts from 5 till 2 in the morning. And then I worked that for about a year to make my house payments. And then I got up with Merlin Bellamy, and he got me to helping him police down here at night. I'd go to work Friday night at 6 o'clock and work till Sunday night at 6 o'clock. And I got interested in reopening the pad. Alan Schaefer picked me up. We went in the pad with Jack Lindsay, Senator Lindsay from Marlboro County, strong fella. And I started in there broke in a Falcon station wagon. And 6 weeks later, I was driving a Cadillac Coupe de Ville in a $200 silk suit, and ain't been broke since.
We fished, we clammed, we in the creek, mainly living off, honestly, back in those days, you lived off the environment. Hunt during the wintertime, and I had Dr. Nixon, which is Sonny Nixon. He and I grew up together. He's a couple of years older. And wintertime we'd cut wood and help out with the families and go hunting, fishing. Summertime, all our friends would come down or, move down, and we'd have a good time playing on the beach. And I guess my dad always was an avid hunter and fisherman, and very good at it. So he would, take me fishing with him a lot. And then when I was about 10, 12 years old, he bought me a boat with an outboard. I kept it in the creek and carried people fishing. So I guess that was the start of my boating and fishing career.
My family went into the laundry business in Myrtle Beach. At that time, they bought the largest dry cleaning plant and laundry in Myrtle Beach. And they used about $5,000 of my money that I saved while I was in the Army and put me into business with it, And so I had a $5,000 investment there. Well, we ran it a couple of years and then sold it, and I got my $5,000 back. But during the meantime, I had gone to Maryland to the National Institute of Dry Cleaning. And I had graduated from the National Institute of Dry Cleaning in Silver Spring, Maryland. And I came back home and I bought into the laundry business. And that's how I got in the laundry business. And I stayed in the laundry business in Myrtle Beach. I was in with the family. And when they wanted to sell out, so I wanted to sell out too. So when they sold out, they gave me my money, and I came to Ocean Drive and opened up a little place in Ocean Drive.
Back in the 70s and 80s, tennis was huge. I mean, it was bigger than golf at one time, but it didn't last long because tennis you got to work at, and it's hard work. And golf was more of a luxury game. The guys can go out, hang out, play golf, do a business deal, and a social deal. It was a lot relaxing, and it didn't wear you out. There was no exercise, nothing that didn't wear you out. But probably in the 80s, I knew golf was really big. And we done stores. The store at the Piggly Wiggly, I call it the Piggly Wiggly, was 38,000 square feet. That was the largest golf store in the world at that time. Nobody had a store. And Ed Watts and a lot of the stores were like 2,000 and 3,000 and 4,000 square feet. We had a store that was almost 40,000 square feet.
Well, when I came in '34, the old buildings were at Wampee then. And WPA was building a new building. So I went in the oldest building that was there. There were eraser marks on the wall, and it was so dirty. I came to teach home economics. There were 4 homemade tables, 2 machines, a Florence cook stove. Do you know what that is?
No. Tell me about that.
It's an oil stove that smokes and carries on. We scrubbed that room and got it presentable. And then they moved us to what was called the kitchen. That was a room off to itself. And it was dirtier than ever. But see, we were working our way towards the new building. Well, we stayed there a while. It was time to tear that building down. So they moved me into another building. This is the 3rd move. And finally, the new building, which has burned since, we were moved into a beautiful new room that I just loved.
Dr. Sonny Nixon and I went to the Trinity Methodist Church together. And in the summertime, I would help him. He had a storage park right across from the flea market. And people would abandon their merchandise, like they still do, I'm sure, pay on it for 5 years and decide what's in there is not worth the pay. And anyway, he had 2 warehouses just full of, he didn't know what. So my wife at the time and I, on Saturday mornings, he had a 5-yard dump truck. we would go in there and just open up the goodie box. And we had no idea what we were loading up until he had some land down in Cherry Grove right near his office. And we would go there, I built 10 tables, and we would put this merchandise out. Well, gosh, it got like Grand Central Station. The police were there. I mean, people were parked everywhere like they do for a big yard sale. And we had a good time finding out that once we opened 2 suitcases completely filled with women's sterling silver. So why somebody left that? Anyway, this went on. Then we started, people wanted to come there and have a yard sale. So we would rent the 10 tables for $10 each, put all of our merchandise, just throw it out on the ground. So that kind of was the way it started.
But we had, one thing we had Baboon Mountains. Now Baboon Mountains is the section between 21st and 28th. There was probably about a 6 or 7 block area between Hillside and I guess it's Madison today. And then from what's now 21st all the way over to about 27th. So you had this big patch of woods, and it's called Baboon Mountains. And the reason it's called Baboon Mountains, it was full of hills and mountains. And it also had all the things Huck Finn could ask for. You had a swamp, you had a desert plain, and then you had the mountains. And then you had a pine forest. So all that stuff was within this realm, and we had the run of the entire thing. And we would just play and play and play. And you would leave it at morning and you'd come back at dark. And that was the only rule you had to do, just be back by dark. So we had a fun time.
So as you can see, we're hard at work documenting history for the future North Myrtle Beach Area Historical Museum. And here's one more fact: we need you. Come join us in our effort to preserve North Myrtle Beach area history.